So the house was good, but the distance between me and Sheila just became greater and deeper because I don't know what was wrong with that brother. Something was just not straight. He had issues. For one thing, he was always selling the herb, right? And next thing I know, people used to kind of like come and complain about the herb that he used to kind of like fix. People would come to him to look for the herb, and he'd be like, "Okay, let me go get it for you," and he'd go get it. And by the time he gives the people a portion, he'd be like, "Whoa, this is all that I got." Is this? And the brother was, "Is it fiver?" He says, "Yeah, man, it is a fiver. It is all that the man could give me, whatever, whatever." So he would always take some of the herb and give the guy a little. You know what I'm saying? And so the vibe started getting more negative. It stopped being airy because people, and eventually people stopped coming too because they used to come because he used to organize herb for them, but they'd be getting a bad deal. So the airiness started disappearing. But then one time he kind of like shows up with this next brother. He shows up with three guys from Paris, three young teenagers, and this is hip hop days, big baggy bags, and cut hair, whatever, Bobby Brown, whatever, blah blah blah. But they're from the ghetto in Paris, and they got a fucking gun, you know. I'm coming with some gun business, and I was like, what are these guys doing with a gun? Because they're not even that tough. It's like they got a gun, but they're afraid of the gun or whatever. But anyway, they had this gun. Next thing I know, Sheila then gets a Rottweiler. His name was Sam. One fucked up Rottweiler, man. And life became terrible in the house because you couldn't really go around because Sam, you never knew if Sam would attack you. You know, one time I was held captive by Sam at the top of the stairs and I couldn't come up, and Sheila had gone. And I tried to talk to this dog, and this dog wouldn't just stop. This dog would just bark at me, and I'm thinking, I need to get the fuck out of here. I start crawl out the window to do my stuff, you know, because of fucking Sam, Uncle Sam, and shit like that. Now these brothers, my main thing was these brothers used the kitchen and never cleaned the kitchen, so I got pissed off about that. So I put a lock on the kitchen, and I'd have the key. So anytime I use the kitchen, I'm open. So it was like I'd stand my ground too. So Sheila, for some reason, I know that he was pissed off about me, but for some reason, he didn't have the guts to throw me out. He could have thrown me out, but he didn't. There was something about me that made him want me to stay around, but me and him were actually not on talking terms. Sometimes there would be peace and we talk a little once in a while, but it was mainly like, I don't really like you. But the part that made me kind of like not like him, like, okay, this dude is not my friend, right? It started way back while I was still at Mayo Road. I had gone in the evening time to go see him about music, and as I got to 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 the house, I could hear this woman, this irritated woman, black woman, shouting in the yard, and she's like, "I'm gonna break your windows. I'm gonna break your windows," and blah 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 blah. And he had a baby in his hand. He was in the house, and she's like, well, so he was using the baby to keep the woman from breaking the window because the baby was a woman's child. And so I saw the drama from behind the bush, and I thought to myself, oh, this is embarrassing. And I was like, and I could hear the talk between him and her, and I was thinking, boy, I thought this brother was safe, but look, man, he's fighting with his wife, and she's got a child and everything. And so I went back to Mayo Road. So actually, the night that Lyndon had killed himself, I had gone to 59 Loughborough Park Road and said, guys, I can't stay back there. The other place where I can stay because Lyndon has killed himself. You know, that's how I got into that house. You know. Anyway, so one time while we were living together, Sheila says to me, my woman, she's always giving me trouble and whatever, whatever. And then I remember the incident. So we got on a bus to go to where the woman was. And His entire attitude while we were going there was pure anger. There was no end to the wrong things that this woman was doing. And it just went on and on and on and on. It's like he wasn't even conscious that I was with him. So we get to the place where she lives, and he brings the buzzer, and she looks from the window upstairs. And he's cussing her from the start go. And I'm like, hold on. This didn't make sense. This is your woman, your child, and you're cussing from the beginning, right? It's like, okay, dude. So we go upstairs, and man, it doesn't take long. The brother's beating her up in front of me. And she says, you see, she said to me, you see, Jimmy, this is what Sheila is all about. It's pure violence. It's just violence, and I don't know why. That's why I had to move away from him, because it's just violence, and I don't know why. And he says, stop talking to my brethren. Why are you talking to my brethren? Pow, pow. You know? And I'm like, ew. You know, so we walk back. And I'm like, this motherfucker. So since that point, I didn't confront him. I should have. Now when I tell the story, I should have just said, yo, bro, you don't do that. You understand? But I was looking out for me. I feel kind of ashamed to say that. Really, I do. I should have done it differently. Yeah, I definitely should have done it differently. No buts. I should have just done it differently. Can still fix it still. So I distanced myself from him. And the other part was he was also kind of like jealous because, you know, really the girls did like me. The thing is, I knew how to talk to the girls in terms of like not being rude and just being friendly and just being cool with them. And the problem was that they would always fall in love. German girls, Spanish girls, they always fall in love. It was always a big love story. And then I'd be walking. There was this girl from Spain called Eva. Oh, we were in love. She introduced me to flamenco music and Cameron and everything. So like people are making fun of me now because hey, he used to be listening to Bob Marley. Now all we hear is hey. Yes, I was into her, and she I'll be walking with her on the street, hand in hand, in Brixton. I didn't care. I didn't even think about it. But I started hearing from some people, boy, it's a big multiracial wedding I come. You know, happy ever after. But they're being sarcastic and everything, you know. And wow, when is the wedding? And you know, coming from Denmark, when you have a girlfriend, people just supposed to mind their own business. And I guess if I was in London, it'd be the same thing. But hey, I was just being Danish. I was just being free. You know, as far as I know, I mean, that the girls, it was always white girls from the beginning, you know, so that's who was there. First experience was with white girls, Danish girls, so it was the most natural thing to do. It was the girls I spoke most naturally with. There was no attitude. There was no attitude. There was no pressure. It was very easy. Yeah. So a couple of girls like that, and we used to have we used to go out play at Covent Garden, and the au pair girls would be out there, and we'd mix with them. Then there's this brother called, I can't remember his name now, but Serge. Serge was from Martinique. He wanted to be a bass player like Jaco Pastorius. So I had two influences. There was this girl, Eva, who brought in the whole Cameron, and Serge brought in Jaco Pastorius. And he just practiced bass all the time. He just wanted to play bass all the time. And it was like, okay, so my music kind of like became varied from there. And that's around the time that I wrote a song called Fire Woman, you know? Go like my shadows in the sky. How that song came around, it was, oh man, it was a wonderful time. It was a wonderful time because I didn't stay in the flat all the time, went out busking. There was a group called Ja Roots, and they used to play percussion, Nyambingi. You had Gad from Jamaica, he had a funny eye like me, and I'm also from the tribe of Gad. So it was like, you Gad, his was permanent, mine is funny. His was permanent Gad, you know, and then you had Abakai, he was from Montserrat, one of those islands. And then you had Phil on Didgeridoo, he was from Australia, he was half Aborigine. And he was the first person to play didgeridoo in London on the streets, and he used to draw a crowd at Leicester Square. He just sit there, woo, and it was like a big old crowd of people, man. And who else? Then you had Judah from Algeria, tall man, was a cook, looked like His Majesty. I met him in Cape Town many years later, and he gave me some clothes. He's a chef. Sister Kerry would know who that brother is in Cape Town. And yeah, there was Rachel. She was a Jewish woman. I'd met her, and she's the one who introduced me to the group because she used to take a little djembe and come and play down in the underground station where me and Ruben used to play. So with Ja Roots, everything was kind of like, okay. So there was a girl who was doing some fire in the nighttime and juggling, and that's where the song Firewoman came from. And I just played that sequence there. Now when I think about it, I realize that the sequence came because I've been listening to a lot of Cameron because of Ava, and it never crossed my mind that this sequence is the flamenco sequence. So there was a lot of music just coming in all the time. You know, the songwriting was just escalating. It was just, and we're talking about 18 going on 19. I was 18 going on 19. You know, 89. And the summer of 89. Oh my God. It was amazing. So then we used to go to this club, open my club called Heaven, and there was this woman called Lady Caroline. This was my first experience of real good musicians. Lady Caroline, and people used to come up and sing. It was really cool. And sometimes I'd go there with Sheila and have some time, good time, and then take the night bus back home. And it was really great. It was all about trying to get a chance. The whole week was all about getting a chance to perform at Lady Caroline's Heaven, which is on Tuesday nights, really. And also, yeah, her band now, her musicians. So Alton used to play there, and then there was this brother called Steve Wellington. He used to busk on the street as well. This brother could play guitar. This brother became my hero. He used to dress sharp, he used to play guitar, and he always had a different sexy girl with him every week. And she would always be carrying his guitar. He'd be walking and this sexy thing would be carrying his guitar for him. Steve had style. And in my mind, I just could not understand. I couldn't believe it. I said, could you ever get to be like Steve Wellington? And there was always, and one girl said to me, she looked at me, she says, but you look like Steve. And from then on, I knew that I gotta be the next Steve Wellington.